Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of the Scaryish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we're here to talk to you guys about some cool topics we've been researching.
Indeed we are. I'm really, really excited for this episode. How about you? I'm
pretty excited. I like my topic this week.
Right on. That's a good thing. So sometimes, do we ever do topics we don't like?
No. I don't know. Sometimes it's something where, oh man, what am I going to do this week? So we just find something and we're like, yeah, okay.
What's funny is I think the only topic I didn't want to do is because I thought everyone would be like,
the black-eyed children.
Was the black-eyed children, and everyone's like, that was the scariest episode you ever did. So sometimes that works out. But yeah, I'm super excited, so let's hope everyone doesn't hate this episode.
Well, okay, so there's some days we start researching because we're excited about a topic, and then we can't find anything, so it doesn't turn into an episode, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I switched topics at least once tonight, so that's going to happen. But yeah, for this episode 102, Robin, what are you going to be covering?
So I'm going to be covering Resurrection Mary and this place called Archer Avenue. Never heard of it, but
I've never heard of it either.
Yeah, I thought you were going to, but we'll get there. Anyway.
I am going to be covering the Tunguska Blast of 1908, and I am really, really excited to do so. And hopefully some of you out there are like, why does that sound so familiar? And the other ones know exactly why it sounds so familiar. And shout out to you, you get 10 cool points for the day. But a quick reminder that episode 104 is our official 2-year anniversary. A lot of you folks have taken to the Discord or to Twitter to give us some questions, or you've just emailed them to us, because we're going to have kind of like a Q&A session for episode 104. So if you have anything you would like to ask us, we'd be happy to cover it. I think we're going to try and get through all of them, just because it'll be really fun to answer questions from you folks. And it'll be really nice to do on our 2-year anniversary. So whatever you want to toss out there, like, keep it respectful. We'll go ahead and say that. But if you have a question you want to ask us, regardless of what it sounds like, I know some people have tossed in stuff like, how do I start a podcast? Or like, has there ever been anything that you guys don't want to do? Stuff like that. We're absolutely A-okay with you asking those questions. So either go to our Discord, and the best way to do that is to hit up our website, scaryish.com. And if you scroll down on the right-hand side, you will see all of our social media icons. Click on Discord, it'll take you right to our server, and there is a channel for 2-year anniversary questions. You can also click on Contact Us if you're on our website and send us either a homegrown horror or a 2-year anniversary question that way, or any of our social medias. Just hit us up and let us know what it is. Robin, we can also take homegrown horrors from folks. What's a homegrown horror?
So homegrown horrors are the stories of your paranormal, supernatural experiences from your friends, your family, people around you that have all these creepy tales or heartwarming ones. We've gotten a lot of those.
Some funny ones, too.
Some funny
coincidental stuff.
Coincidences are really funny. But yeah, and you guys share them with us, and we get to share it with the rest of our spooky friends, and it's great.
Indeed. And if you have anything like that, you can hit us up in any of the aforementioned ways, or you can also email storytime@scaryish.com. That email, you can send in questions as well. So now that I've plugged that fun stuff, we're going to go ahead and move into our topics for the evening. So we might as well. I mean, you might be listening to this in the morning. It's currently like midnight for us. So, but I believe I'm going to be going first. So
cool.
I'm going to go into it. So this week, it's the beginning of a very long week, and like, you know, you can just tell that sometimes. Like,
well, I mean, today I was like, oh yeah, do you want to go to the movies tomorrow? Because I thought it was Friday. I was like, is it over
I hate
yet?
you so much for playing that trick on me, and I was just like, yeah, I'd like to go to a movie tomorrow. And of course, it's a movie that doesn't come out until Friday, so I'm like, how are we going to go see that tomorrow? And now I'm like, oh my god, I wish it was Friday right now. It breaks my heart. But it's just, I don't know, I just feel it. Like, last week was just a roller coaster of good and bad. And this week feels like it's shaping up to be the same thing, so it's not shocking to learn that I did not have a specific topic in mind going into today, and I sincerely felt a little bit lost. I like to go into our Discord channel and some of our email suggestions and just see what you folks have to suggest as topics. I do that a lot, and I was just like, let's get Ralph back in here so we can get some more stories so I don't have to look up a bunch of research. But that said, I did decide on a topic. I already stated it. So I know this isn't suspenseful for any of you because you've either seen the episode title or you heard me 2 minutes ago. But that said, it is something I have heard about since I was a young lad, primarily because it is referenced at the end of the movie Ghostbusters. And yes, listeners, I am talking about the Tunguska Blast of 1908. So if you don't remember that, it's probably because you haven't seen Ghostbusters and you suck. So not really, but kind of, because that movie is incredible. But the Tunguska Blast, which is also called the Tunguska event, is something that is referenced in Ghostbusters because it is something paranormal or unbelievable that did actually happen.
So how do they reference it in the movie?
I'll get to it. It's actually at the very end of my script, so.
Oh, all right.
But it did happen. It's absolutely bizarre, and it continues to baffle people to this day. And I say baffle, and I'll kind of walk that back a little bit because there are some pretty good theories regarding what happened. Folks really do have an idea of what they believe transpired. But some of the details are a bit weird and don't all sort of add up, and I'll get into that. So let's just talk about this. It actually did happen. This is something that is 100% confirmed, an event in history, 1908. So what was it? I'll just stop pussyfooting around it and just come out and say it. So way back when, in the long, long ago, which is 1908, something happened. So rather than me just explain it to you...
A lot of things happened in 1908.
What else happened?
I don't know. I'm sure,
The Cubs won the World Series.
Did they?
That was the last time before they wound up winning it again in 2016.
Oh, yeah, duh. Do the math.
I totally did a curse episode about the curse of the Billy Goat.
Dang.
So what happened? I'm going to put you right into this. So I want you to do something different than when I just talk at you. So, like, have you seen Wayne's World? Like the doodle-doo, doodle-doo.
We were just watching Drunk History. Okay.
And someone said to do that, and I was like, holy shit, I was just thinking about that for my script, so it was perfect. So, picture yourself right now. Just picture yourself, and just picture yourself in an empty space. Kind of like the Matrix before they load anything out. I like to use this white room to set the scene for stuff. Just picture yourself, and I'll load in the rest with my mouth words. And there you are, but you're actually in a different place. The place you're in is Siberia. And I know what you're thinking. It's probably cold, freezing. You've probably pictured yourself wrapped up in scarves, wearing a super heavy coat. But fret not, dear listener, it's June 30th. And believe it or not, in this particular neck of the woods you're hanging out in, it's actually probably closer to like 70 degrees. Maybe
so
a
it's
little
nice
bit over. So it is nice out. What's funny is I wrote, folks from Las Vegas probably didn't remove any of their winter clothes in this mind image they have of themselves, because 70 degrees is like winter coat weather.
Oh my goodness. I just posted an article about it.
Really?
Yeah, because it's going to rain tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just so excited because that means winter is coming.
God, that's the most, like, you can never be part of the Stark family because you're too enthusiastic when you say winter is coming.
Yeah.
You have to be dark and brooding when you say it.
Winter
it's funny,
is
too, because,
coming.
like, our Midwest listeners probably just immediately when I said 70 degrees pictured themselves in, like, a bikini or swimming trunks.
Pool weather.
But it's nice out. So it's also the morning. It's around 7 a.m. So picture yourself early in the morning. It's this nice day. I looked up when the sun rises around this time in Siberia. It's like 3 to 3:30 in the morning.
What?
So the sun's been out for a while. So maybe you woke up early. Maybe the sun woke you up. Let's just say you woke up, even if you're one of those lazy people who sleeps till noon. God, I wish I was still you. Maybe you're like
I don't sleep till noon.
I didn't say you. I'm just saying people out there in general.
You said, I wish I was you.
It's the royal you. I don't mean you. You get up at like 8:30 or 9. But anyways, picture that you're outside, or maybe at the window, like sipping coffee or something like that. Maybe you're walking your dog outside. Maybe you're going for a jog if any of you are athletic. I know I'm not. But whatever the case is, it's June 30th, 1908, and it is now 7:17 a.m. local time. And you look up in the sky, and you see a massive column of light with a bluish tint to it streaking across the sky. And it's like nothing you've ever seen before. And I mean this next part when I say this. It is probably the closest human beings have ever seen to what would basically be a Kamehameha blast from Dragon Ball Z.
Okay.
That is like kind of what you're actually looking at if you think of this. And this light is streaking through the sky, and it is so bright that it hurts your eyes to look at it. You raise your hands like to get a glimpse of whatever it is, and you're kind of peeking through the slits between your fingers.
Is it because it
squinting.
shines?
It shines bright like a diamond. We all know where you're going with that. And this thing is nearly as bright as the sun. What's even crazier is that it's definitely not as far away as the sun. When you look up and you see something in the sky, something that you can tell from actually being there is distance. You know, if you're looking at a star, it could be bright and twinkling, but it's super, 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 super far away. This thing is actually in the Earth's atmosphere. So it's right there.
Is it bright because it's on fire, because it's entered the Earth's atmosphere? Or?
It's not on fire yet, but it is definitely very bright because it has this bluish tint to it. So kind of imagine like
that
a
really
comet.
super hot part of the flame.
Sure, that too. But kind of imagine like a comet. Okay, so like that color that comes off of it, like the tail, and essentially that's what's streaking through the sky. So folks from all over the area see this, and no one knows what's going on. Like seeing this today would make most folks think the world was ending, or nuclear war was happening, or there's an alien invasion. But in 1908, there's no telling what people thought this was. And the light just continues to streak into the distance, eventually leaving your sight and going over the horizon, but you can still see the bright glowing on the horizon. It's definitely like there's a second sun that's now set, that's just too far for you to see it. And you'd probably take out your cell phone today and take a video of this, then check the news or call or text a friend to see if they saw it or knew what it was, but it's 1908. So you probably had to, draw what you saw on, a piece of bark. You probably had to use blood.
A piece of bark?
I don't know. I don't think
They
paper
have
and pen...
paper.
I don't think paper and pen were invented yet in 1908.
No, they had paper.
So once you're done with that, you'd probably have to grab, a homing pigeon or a raven or whatever and put another piece of bark with blood writing on it so you can text your friend to let them know what you saw.
Even the people in Game of Thrones had paper.
Nah, you're crazy now. You're just talking crazy talk. So whatever you did...
Egyptians had papyrus, asshat.
You're just making shit up now.
Oh
no one
my
knows what you're
God.
talking about, Robin. Whatever you did, you saw this bizarre thing streak across the sky, and about 10 minutes after it left your field of vision, something else happened. So just imagine standing there, staring into the distance, your hand still up to shield you from the brightness of the second sun, and all of a sudden, without warning, a blinding flash of light comes from the horizon. And right around the time you'd be looking around going, what the hell was that? You'd be knocked off your feet. Literally knocked off your feet. Probably thrown several feet as well. In fact, you and everyone else around this particular event would be knocked off their feet for around 400 to 500 miles. Just boom, knocked on your ass. And hopefully you weren't one of those people that pictured yourself standing at the window watching this, because in that same radius, the windows literally shattered. The glass just exploded out, because this was a shockwave just crossing the land, literally just going across the earth. And yes, you guessed it, whatever this thing was that was streaking across the sky exploded. So how big of an explosion was it? Well, scientifically, it would be considered pretty fucking big. So it's funny too, because I decided, would it be pretty or really or kinda, or should I say huge? All I knew was that the scientific term I would use for this part of my script was fucking. It was going to be
oh my God.
Something fucking something. So that sounded weird. But anyways, it was pretty fucking big. All over the Asian and European continent. By the way, when you talk about those two things together, you say Eurasia, which just sounds weird coming out of my face. But across the Asian and European continent, what?
Why does that sound weird?
It just sounds weird to cram them together, so I just split them apart. But seismographs picked up the explosion. Seismographs were invented in 140 AD. Yeah, I know that. So
Googled
what's up?
it.
I didn't Google pen and paper. I knew that. It was just a joke. Don't at me. I don't want to hear. But they picked up this explosion, and the shock wave that it sent out when it erupted was equivalent to an earthquake measuring 5.0 on the Richter scale. So that's an incredibly powerful shock wave. There were instruments set up places all over the world to detect atmospheric events, like local stuff like weather measuring instruments and the like. These instruments picked up the shock wave as far away as Washington, D.C.
Dang, from Europe and Asia?
Which
That's
is
crazy.
literally the opposite, the other side of the planet than Siberia, where this explosion took place. And these instruments were like, hey, there's a shockwave. So here you are, laying in the dust, feeling the ground shake from this explosion, and there's glass everywhere. It is essentially an earthquake, for all intents and purposes. And one thought that may run through your head is, aside from, is this the end of the world, is, I wonder what that just blew up. Where did it hit, basically? Mm-hmm. You know? So it will not shock you to find out that the location where this fire in the sky made its way to is an area known as Tunguska. And it actually has a different name, which is way more difficult to pronounce, and I'm not going to embarrass myself, but Tunguska is very well known to be the location where this took place. There's also a river called the something Tunguska River.
Okay.
So that's where this happens.
It's a very accurate name.
No problem. I'm all about that. Pen and paper were invented, 1956, whatever. I'm not a scientist.
Stop talking.
It's a good thing it went off in this area, because this area was basically an enormous forest. So let's say that you hopped on your hover bike or strapped on your jetpack or whatever they had in 1908. I'm not good with technology from past or future.
I can't.
But however you were able to transport yourself to the blast site, what would you see? Well, don't picture yourself like trekking through the forest until you reach the epicenter, and then there's like something amazing at the epicenter.
Drone, right? You just
you just get on your like drone bike or whatever they have. I think that's actually something in Mumbai.
What?
Yeah, you have like drone bikes that the cops are on now that can fly up like 20 feet.
Door.
I think they can fly like 60 miles an hour
No,
too.
they can't.
They basically all look like fucking RoboCop over there.
Where is this?
Mumbai.
Oh my god, they have so much. What?
Yeah.
I want that technology.
But let's get back into this. You're trekking through this forest, right? And all of a sudden, you come upon trees that had been completely knocked down and are laying flat on the earth.
Are they cracked or are they like bent?
They're just like down. So they were blown off of their stump, which just like
ripped out of the ground?
Ripped out of the ground
Okay.
or broke. Either way, they're laying flat on the ground. What's interesting about this, I have personally seen what this looks like when it happens to a forest. I used to go to Ontario, Canada once a year for about a week-long fishing trip. I've referenced it before on the show every now and then. And there was a microburst. I've talked about microbursts on the show before, which is a really centralized, very small, severe thunderstorm with an epic downdraft that is almost like a bomb went off in the sky. And that happened in one of the trails that you'd have to walk through to get to one of the best lakes to fish in. And we couldn't even get to the lake one year because it was like, hey, if you want to go out there, you can try and find your way across the forest. But basically, it's like all the rock that you'd normally walk over, and the forest was just fucking flattened. So the guy's like, I'm going to have to take a chainsaw over the next year and cut the path through. Because he had to cut through everything. And the next year we went back up there and we could actually walk through the path he cut. And it was just, the forest was laying flat. It was like someone came in and it's like if you had dominoes and someone just knocked them all over and they laid flat. That's what it looked like. So, and this was in an area that's a few square miles, and the devastation just seemed so impressive, is a weird way to say. Incredible, I think, is more accurate. So, that was something that I saw. So, the devastation in Tunguska is on a scale literally unheard of until this happened. No trees survived this. It wasn't like where I saw a few trees were still standing or leaning on each other. Local wildlife were essentially obliterated when this happened.
Well, that's so sad.
So how big of an area are we talking where the forest was like legitimately annihilated? Well, a square mile is a mile by a mile.
Right.
You know, if you're making a square, all sides are 1 mile. So imagine that. And then imagine you're walking through these woods. You would be staring out at an area that had been leveled over a distance of 800 square miles. And I think that when we talk about stuff like this, it is really hard for people to picture size and scale. That's why I like to give comparisons for size and scale so people can really picture this. So let's talk about, I don't know, how about cities? So if you're one of our listeners from the United States, let's put it this way. I have the big three in mind at all times when I think about size of cities. Chicago, New York, LA. Those are the three I always think of. Chicago is 234 square miles. This thing blew up an area that was 800 square miles.
What?
So,
How's that
New York is 302, and LA is the biggest of the three at 503 square miles. So let's say it hit over LA, it would have not only just completely destroyed LA, leveled the buildings, obliterated it entirely, and just left debris everywhere, along with, people. It would have had 300 more square miles to go. That's how huge of an area we're talking about.
It's like New York and LA stuck together.
Yeah, like literally just fucking flattened from this explosion. So what's crazy about this, the internet, by the way, told me this, and it's never wrong. The largest city in the continental United States, which is just a nice way of saying that you leave out Hawaii and Alaska because they're not connected. But in the 48 connected states, the largest U.S. city per square miles is Jacksonville in Florida. Side note, gross. Side note, I'm just kidding, kind of. But Jacksonville is supposed to be 747 square miles, or 757 depending on which website you go to, or if you just Google it and it gives you a random answer, that says 875. But what matters is that the largest U.S. city would still have been completely annihilated if this happened over it today.
Since we're talking about states in continental U.S., being from Hawaii, it's really annoying. Okay? It's really annoying being from an island and you have all these tourists coming in. And I worked in retail and I worked in the hotel industry for a really long time. And when people come in and they're just like, I'm from the States. I'm like, we're a fucking state, motherfucker.
What you have to understand about people from the mainland is we're all pretty stupid.
Like,
I mean, I met someone the other day who insisted that there was 52 states, 51 or
Shut
52
up!
states.
You're talking about me!
So we don't need your shit. I will say there's no defending the fact that you don't know that Hawaii is part of the United States. It's pretty epically fucking stupid. But, okay, we're going to get back into this.
I just...
Ow, don't hurt me.
Okay.
So 800 square miles were just flattened. And not just flattened. This is a fireball that also set stuff on fire. Just flash burn shit across so much of this distance. Not the full 800, but places were just absolutely devastated. So there's a couple of ways we measure things. And the ways we measure explosions is typically in megatons, at least lately since the advent of the nuclear bomb. So the force of the explosion from the Tunguska blast is estimated to be around 30 megatons. And now the other way we measure things is to compare them to the bomb that hit Hiroshima. And that's because it is one of two times that an actual nuclear weapon has been used in warfare, and its devastation is something that we all, for the most part, have actually seen the results of. You know, like, I know Nagasaki was also hit. FYI, I know this is apropos of nothing, Nagasaki was in a valley, and when the bomb went off, it was, like, directly over the valley.
It, like, keeps the radiation in there.
It kept the blast in there, too. So it definitely protected the stuff that was outside the valley.
But they got
Hiroshima was flat. So Hiroshima got fucked. It got annihilated. So the reason I bring that up is because picture that. Like, everyone's kind of seen that scenery. That just absolute devastation and the complete destruction and, like, the death on, like, an unheard of toll. And picture that in your mind's eye when I tell you that the Tunguska blast was around 2,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. And this happened in 1908 with people just walking around like, what the hell just happened? And you know how when something crazy happens, regardless of what it is, it's all anyone will talk about.
Yeah, and they just post it on the internet. And...
Yeah, depending on how big of a crazy event it is, it gets talked about for longer and longer. Well, it was definitely not going to be forgotten about across all of Asia and Europe.
Yeah, I bet it went viral.
I hate you so much. But it was definitely not going to be forgotten about for one specific reason. It's because the sky was lit up with brilliant clouds and bizarrely bright skies at night. So the best thing I can compare this to is the sky after the SpaceX launch in California. How it had that weird blue sky, the weird blue cloud in the sky that people were like, is that a UFO? Like, what the hell is going on? Because at night, it's basically this big, bright, shining blue cloud. I will post pictures of this
on
our Instagram as well.
I was really curious. I didn't see it.
So if you've never seen that, just look at our Instagram. You can also Google it if you don't want to look at our Instagram and you're an asshole or whatever. But
oh my God.
Then think about something this large happening versus like an actual rocket ship taking off. And when you think about the scale, what was in the night sky the next few nights could be seen from the far side of Russia. So if you're looking at a risk map, the tip of Kamchatka, where you can you can attack across it to attack Alaska, all the way to the other side of Europe, where it's like the tip of Ireland, where it touches the Atlantic Ocean. That area is over 7,000 miles. And there are reports of seeing bizarre bright skies in the night all over, not just like in a straight line, but like as far down as like Italy and as far high up as the Russian continent goes. What's awesome is I found this amazing study done on this particular event that has like the reported sightings from 1908 marked off on a map. That map will also be on our Instagram.
Oh, cool.
It was called the Bright Skies Phenomenon. I hope you can see my air quotes when I say that. So before we talk about what it could have been, I want you to hear an actual eyewitness testimony on this. And this is real, and it will give you an idea of how it felt to be present when this happened. And this may not be what everyone thinks it was, because some of these details are a little bit odd. So here we go. This is the testimony of Chuchan of the, I can't say this right, Shanyagir tribe. So this is a native. And this was recorded in 1926. So this is about 18 years after the event, when they sat down with folks from the area and they're like, did you see this when it happened? And this guy said yes. And this is what he had to say. We had a hut by the river with my brother, Chekarin. We were sleeping. Suddenly we both woke up at the same time. Somebody shoved us. We heard whistling and felt strong wind. Chekarin said, can you hear all those birds flying overhead? We were both in the hut, couldn't see what was going on outside. Suddenly I got shoved again, this time so hard I fell into the fire. I got scared. Chekarin was scared too. We started crying for our father, mother, brother, but no one answered. There was noise beyond the hut. We could hear trees falling down.
Oh, snap.
If you ever heard a tree falling down, it's a loud noise. Now just imagine, like, literally all the trees falling down. And that's what this guy heard. Him and his brother heard this happening outside his hut. Chekrin and I got out of our sleeping bags and wanted to run out, but then the thunder struck. This was the first thunder.
It's like the sound wave of the blast.
The earth began to move and rock. The wind hit our hut and knocked it over. So just first shockwave, boom. The hut is gone. It is knocked over. My body was pushed down by sticks, but my head was in the clear. Then I saw a wonder. The trees were falling. The branches were on fire.
What?
It became mighty bright. How can I say this? As if there was a second sun. My eyes hurting, I even closed them. It was like what Russians call lightning. And immediately there was a loud thunderclap. This was the second thunder. So this is where things get a little weird for me.
So it's like multiple blasts?
There were multiple explosions. It wasn't just one, which is what you hear in the normal narrative, is that there was an explosion, it did all this shit, but this is him saying that this happened to him, and there was a second thunder. It goes on to say, the morning was sunny, there were no clouds, our sun was shining brightly as usual, and suddenly there came a second one. Chekrin and I had some difficulty getting out from under the remnants of our hut. Then we saw that above, but in a different place, there was another flash, and loud thunder came. So this is the third flash, the third thunder. This was the third thunderstrike. Wind came again, knocked us off our feet, struck the fallen trees. We looked at the fallen trees, watched the treetops get snapped off, watched the fires. Suddenly Chekrin yelled, "Look up," and pointed with his hand. I looked there and saw another flash, and it made another thunder, but the noise was less than before. This was the fourth strike, like normal thunder. Now I remember well, there was also one more thunder strike, but it was small and somewhere far away where the sun goes to sleep.
So it's like
beyond the horizon.
Right. Yeah, that's the words I was trying to think of. But so the trees were on fire, he says. So the waves of these blasts, are they hot?
Yes, they are hot.
So it's like superheated air. There
is some other testimonies that I read that are not as well spoken. And one of them is about a guy who was outside when this happens and he gets hit by the blast and his shirt gets set on fire.
Oh, shit.
He literally talks about how hot his shirt gets and how hot this wave was that he just wanted to rip his shirt off. He took it off and he gets knocked on his ass. And he also describes a second and a third explosion. And by the third one, when it's starting to get less, his wife runs outside and drags him into the house because their house wasn't destroyed.
So it's not like a single natural phenomenon, like this thing comes, blast, it's done. It's like something is, I don't know, I would think it's alien invasion. Like,
they had no idea what was happening. And it's crazy to me because all these other testimonies I read, they all have one similar detail. It was not just a single blast. It was multiple blasts, multiple shockwaves.
It's creatures burrowing into our earth.
I hate you so much. So, what the hell was it then? The most popular theory is one you've probably either heard or already thought. I kind of spoiled it when I said picture a comet. But the streaking ball of light in the sky was supposedly a comet or an asteroid or a meteor that entered the Earth's atmosphere. What's interesting about this theory is there is no impact crater. It doesn't exist. It never struck the Earth. In fact, the spot thought to be the epicenter, which is found just by, if you see trees laying down, whichever direction they're pointing, go the opposite fucking direction, and you'll find the source of your blast. And if you trace it all the way there, the area where this happened, the epicenter where this took place, it's about a 5-mile diameter where all the trees are not knocked down. They're all just standing upright.
What?
They're all burnt, and the branches and the leaves are pretty much gone, but they're still standing there. And as soon as you get out of the epicenter, and it's like a perfect circle, and as soon as you get out of it, that's where all the trees are all laying down, and they're all laying down in a direction just pointing directly away from the circle. So that's how you know it's the epicenter. What is truly fucking bizarre about this area is that now, over 100 years later, this forest has regrown, except for the 5-mile area. So when this happened, the only forest that was left was the 5 miles of just absolutely scorched trees that were still standing. And now, the rest of the forest has regrown, and there's a perfect circle where this took place where no trees grow. It's just this little green area. If you say something about the band Perfect Circle, I will punch you.
Okay, so what if it was like a UFO that came in, right? Came into the Earth's atmosphere, was like, we got to make an emergency landing. They land somewhere in Siberia, but they don't have to touch the ground because they have fucking, I don't know, jet-powered stuff underneath, right? And the jets, when it lands, it burns everything.
All I'm saying is if you're doing an emergency landing... If you're doing an emergency landing and you knock down 800 square miles of forest, you flip the wrong fucking switch. Okay?
I mean, if they're coming in real hot, right?
I hate you so much.
And the jets they're trying their best to propel themselves from the earth so they don't crash into it. And all this pressure from their fucking jets. I should be on Ancient Aliens, just saying.
Even Ancient Aliens has a different theory that's not as ludicrous as the one that you have.
I need to know. Tell me.
All right. So not having an impact crater indicates that this thing obviously exploded just above the Earth. And the force from the explosion, because of the object's momentum, would have been directed down, which is why it was so epically devastating. And this is the most widely accepted theory on what happened, and there has never been recovery of any meteorite material, and previous claims that there have been are all a hoax. Now here, I want to clarify something. When I say meteorite material, I'm not talking about on the microscopic level. People think that there was a meteor, so it probably had to be, I think they said around 600 to 670 feet wide, and there must be like rocks or remnants. No one's ever recovered anything. There's one person who claims that they recovered it, and the rock is known as, quote, John Stone. It's supposedly a remnant of the meteorite, but they've done tests on it, and its geological makeup suggests it's actually part of the landscape where this explosion took place. What is that face for?
John Stone reminds me of Game of Thrones, like, he's just some bastard born on one of the Isles.
I hate you so very much right now. So what's interesting is the trees and the grounds do have remnants, albeit on a super, super small scale, like microscopic scale, of silicate, magnetite, which sounds like a Pokemon, plus high levels of nickel and iron, and these things are essentially the building blocks of a meteor, and the level that they're found at is not consistent with the area that they should be at. That said, what if that's the makeup of an alien spaceship that just fucking exploded over Siberia? So now let's go ahead and talk about what people think it also could have been. That's not a comet or a meteor.
It's an alien spaceship. It landed into the area, but Siberia has like anti-UFO technology.
In 1908.
Who fucking knows, okay? Maybe they have the creatures that live in the earth, you know, they've taken their technology and they've just created this whole thing, and I
love that I'm the rational one, because you just throw so much bullshit at the wall hoping for it to stick.
But I'm just like, what if it was a Doctor Who situation, the government created this technology.
Always comes back to Doctor Who.
Yeah, and they didn't tell anybody they have this fucking technology, they just want to protect the people, right? And so this UFO comes and wants to crash onto the earth, but they shoot it with these lasers and destroy it.
Should I put the fez on your head right now? Because you're on some crazy shit right now.
I mean, you never know. And each of those little thundery blasts is each little laser shot they're taking at this spaceship.
Well, it sounds like they have really shitty technology, because you should be able to do the job with one shot.
You know what?
But the first alternate theory I'm going to offer, aside from Robin's babbling bullshit, is a theory that dates back as far as 1941. And that theory is that the event that took place was not the result of a comet or an asteroid, but was instead a chunk of something else much more rare than a comet or an asteroid.
It's a unicorn.
So for those of you particle physicists out there, you've probably already theorized this could be the case, but there is something called, and I quote, annihilation.
Oh my god.
Which is kind of appropriate naming. And to make
Mortal
this less
Kombat.
dry and sciencey, annihilation is when two subatomic, which means small, particles collide with each other and produce a ton of energy. They basically destroy each other and they produce different other subatomic particles.
It's like creating black matter or something.
I don't know about black matter. I don't have any information whatsoever on black matter.
We're not scientists.
I think what you're trying to say is antimatter.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
That is what it is. That's what like the particle accelerators do, is they're trying to generate antimatter, and they've actually generated antimatter. There's certain different things you can do within science where you can generate it. So the chunk of something that must have interacted with our planet is, in fact, what Robin just stated. The idea is that a chunk of antimatter came into the Earth's atmosphere. Now, this theory does account for a couple of things. One, that there was no recovered meteor, comet / asteroid, whatever you'd want to call it. And it does also explain the lights in the sky, because that is a phenomenon that would be associated, especially on such a grand scale, with something like an antimatter explosion.
Ewan McGregor should have just taken it into a helicopter and taken it up into
God,
the sky.
Man, you're just all over the place with your references tonight. So, a couple of problems with this theory is that, one, antimatter is exceedingly rare, and two, the biggest of the problems is that chunks, especially large chunks of antimatter that would be able to cause an explosion on this scale, are pretty widely believed to be, and I put this bluntly, not possible. Antimatter is very microscopic.
Yeah.
It is extremely difficult to create antimatter on a microscopic scale, let alone like a fucking chunk of it just floating through the universe that happens to hit our planet. But that does not mean that it's absolutely impossible. But let's move to a more plausible theory, aliens. So there is a large contingent of people that believe that what entered the Earth's atmosphere was actually a spaceship piloted by beings not of this Earth. And as with many alien theories, including Robin's ridiculous one earlier, a lot of liberties are taken and assumptions are made to make the theory even make sense.
I really like this topic.
Thank
It's
you.
so good.
One of the primary things that gets kind of made up is that these beings use some form of nuclear power or a nuclear power source for their ship to, I don't know, have interstellar travel. Maybe it's not interstellar.
Maybe they're using antimatter.
Holy shit, you just blew my mind. There you go. Someone email someone. I need to figure out who I need to send that to. So,
I'm
my
sorry.
fucking mind is blown right now. I've totally lost my place
This
here.
episode is so good.
People are like, I fucking hate this episode.
Okay.
I can't wait to stop listening to it.
Okay.
All right, so the theory is developed based off of the detail that the epicenter was not flattened, but instead burned, because that does not seem consistent with meteorite explosions. The other thing is that the trees that were left standing in the epicenter were only burned on one side, the side that would have been facing the blast. Again, that is not consistent with meteorite explosions. Meteorite explosions typically set fires. It's not just a heat wave that comes out. There's also fires that start afterwards. In fact, this is a completely side tangent, but there's a theory that the Great Chicago Fire was started by a meteorite exploding in the Earth's atmosphere.
What?
Yeah, and it's like something that's really gained steam, not what's-her-face's cow that knocked over a lantern or whatever bullshit that's supposed to be.
Oh my god.
So, that is not the case of the epicenter of the Tunguska blast. It was. They were all standing. They were clearly dead, and nothing grows there anymore, but they were all standing and burnt on one side. And what ties this theory together in the minds of the conspiracy theorists here is a person from this area who saw this happen and saw the devastation firsthand also went to Hiroshima after the bombing.
What?
Years after, when it was safe to visit.
Oh, okay.
And what they noticed is that the epicenter, the Hiroshima bomb's epicenter, also left trees standing, did not knock them down
No
despite
way.
the epic devastation all around the epicenter, and they were also all only burned on one side.
Really?
Because it's a flash of heat. It's not going to just spark fires everywhere or scatter fire. It's just this ridiculous fireball in the sky.
Wait, so it doesn't actually like land and explode?
The Hiroshima bomb, I'm pretty sure, didn't land and explode. It blew up in the air. And it's a giant fireball. And then after that, the mushroom cloud that you see is because the fire dissipates just as fast as it was created. And all you see left is the smoking column. And there are consistent eyewitness accounts that there was a smoking column that happened after this object split into two pieces, which would explain like the multiple explosions and stuff like that. So it's not as far-fetched as you would think to assume something happened there. And when you start to think, well, what could have that sort of technology? Well, it has to be aliens. They were clearly flying a pyramid or whatever. It was Ra, God of the Sun, if you watch Stargate, which I'm pretty sure is the bad guy from the movie and not the show.
I've only seen Stargate SG-1, sorry.
Oh, God, and I've only seen the movie. We just really fill in each other's gaps, but we really don't overlap on a lot of stuff. Wow. That got weird. Not really. Wink.
Okay, go.
So, last but not least,
I love them too.
is a theory. What?
Okay, go.
I fucking hate you. Last but not least is the theory that I personally believe because it came from one of the most brilliant minds, and it states that this following is the case. It was an interdimensional cross rip that caused the blast. That theory, however, is really just a line from Ghostbusters. At the end, the very end, when Ray states, when he's talking to Lewis, that he was a survivor of the biggest interdimensional cross rip since the Tunguska blast. But he does state in the movie the Tunguska blast of 1909. He doesn't say 1908. Damn it, Ray. If someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Oh my god.
So, what really was it? Well, the pragmatist in me says it's probably a comet or meteor or asteroid or whatever this actually is categorized as. But the true believer in me says interdimensional cross rip. I think that sounds like much more fun. The nerd in me says that it was a battle between two super powerful beings, which as much as you can turn your nose up at and act like I'm an idiot, I'm not even thinking Dragon Ball Z, but there were just repeated explosions, like things colliding with each other. And wind and blast. It was fucking Goku and Vegeta fighting, and Goku took him out in the middle of nowhere where no one will get hurt. And by the way, no one died in this.
Wow.
It's supposed to be 0 casualties. 3 people were, like, reported missing afterwards, and, like, they haven't even been able to confirm that they're actually missing or that they actually existed, so it doesn't even count on the death total, which is kind of fucked up if 3 people actually died, and they're like, nope, 0 people. But 0 to 3 people died from this devastating blast, which is crazy when you think of how strong this was. And I just want to point out one last thing.
Now I'm just imagining all these stupid ways that it could have been Goku fighting someone. Like, Goku was standing on the ground, and, like, the other person was shooting from the sky, and he
shot him out of the... Yeah. Just saying. There's a lot of things that could have happened. I think they're all just as equally as plausible. But let me get back into the realm of the real before I leave you, okay?
What? That stuff's not real?
I hate you. It's crazy to think what a difference a few hours could make, because if this object had done exactly what it did only a few hours later in this specific day, things would have been much, much different. I read this amazing study in this book on asteroids, and it has a really good section on the Tunguska blast. And here's a quote from it that talks about what would have happened if the asteroid showed up a few hours later than it did, and it really puts this into perspective, okay? This thing that had 0 casualties, supposedly. The quote is, instead of hitting a non-populated forest, it could have impacted the Russian capital of St. Petersburg at the same latitude. So if the Earth would have just rotated a little bit more, it would have come in the same spot but hit a different part of the planet, which would have been the Russian capital. Under these conditions, the Russian participation to World War I and the Russian Revolution would not have been possible. The whole history of humanity in the 20th century would be different.
Wow.
So had this thing arrived just a few hours later, it would have altered the course of the 20th century and literally all of human history that followed. There is nothing anyone could have done to see this coming at the time. There's nothing anyone could have done to prevent this. And while we have grown extensively in our scientific abilities, we might be able to see something like this coming now. There's probably fuck all we could do about it if this was going to repeat itself. And if it happens, I read this too, if it happens over water, the impact blast that happened, the downforce, is not enough to create a tsunami. If it happened over any of the ocean parts, I think it needs to be like 10 times stronger for an explosion's downforce to create a tsunami. It would essentially hit the body of water and cause ripples.
Because of tension or whatever.
Correct, but it would not cause a tsunami. Okay. So if something were bigger, it could cause a tsunami. What's also awesome to think about when people are like, oh my god, like this country's full, or when you talk about like any country that talks about how it's overcrowded, is like the majority of Earth, the majority of land on Earth is unpopulated. So it's more likely that if this happened again, because it's like, it wouldn't hit a city. It would just hit another unpopulated area.
Because it's like tundra and stuff like that.
Tundra or forest or a bunch of different areas. So it just always makes me laugh when people like act like overcrowding is a serious issue in certain spots that are just like totally fucking empty.
But you'd have to move into unlivable space.
Well, yeah, but is it really unlivable? If you want to colonize Mars, don't you think you should finish colonizing Earth first? True. But my point is, like, and I'm also going to hedge my bet here, I've been to fucking Tokyo. I understand overcrowding is an issue in certain areas, but if we're really looking at it, like, big picture, like, we're all one people, one planet,
so I'll just move into Aokigahara Forest.
Wow, that would be terrifying, but I do want to visit it. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of empty space here for this thing to impact with, so we don't all fucking die. The last thing I'm going to say on this completely is that if this was an asteroid, it is estimated that it was possibly 620 feet wide at its largest. That's the official number. I kept it for the end of my script. 620 feet wide, if it was an asteroid, is how big this thing could have been.
Okay.
All other estimates are lower than that. So why do I bring that up? Because 4 weeks ago, NASA identified an asteroid that is going to just barely miss Earth on December 20th, 2019.
Shut up.
So about a month from today. It's going to come through right around the Christmas season, and that asteroid is 1,640 feet wide.
Well, would it kill us like the dinosaurs?
They do say it would be an extinction-level event if it struck the planet.
Holy shit.
So let's hope that they're right about the fact that it's going to miss us, because that's almost 3 times bigger than what caused the Tunguska blast of 1908.
Well, I think I've lived a good year, so, I mean, if it does hit us...
Lived a good year, lived a good life.
I've lived a...
So you're saying the rest of your life was garbage until this year, and it's like, it was an alright year, so I can go now.
No. I mean, I've lived a good life. It was good. You've
made your peace?
I've lived a fulfilling life, and I'm good if I happen to be hit
by
an asteroid.
I feel like I've also lived a very fulfilling life. I'm not ready to go
well,
yet.
At least we know it'll be instantaneous.
I don't think that's true. These guys have suffered like 5 separate blasts. It'll be like Deep Impact, where you're standing on the beach waiting for the giant wave to hit.
I'd hold you.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah, thanks.
Right on. So, before we move...
It would be like Rogue One.
It's just like Rogue One. All right, before we move on to our next topic, there's 2 things we got to do. One is the commercial break. We're going to take an ad break. Before we do that, there is a bizarre phenomenon going on in this country that I want to address. And I don't know if this is like this elsewhere, just 3 universities that I have personally been, that I want to bring up. In the United States.
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know if this is like this abroad, so anyone who listens to us who's not from the United States, you can bring this up. I don't know what your seasons are like. However, in the fall and in the spring, there's obviously semesters in school. And this happened to me at Purdue North Central, which is a part of campus of Purdue, and at IUN, which is IU Northwest, which is another extension of a campus. There are trees that exist that are pretty, but I used to walk through the parking lot to get to the building, and I'd be like, they have a really distinct smell. And it annoys me, because I'd always tell people, and people would act like I'm crazy. And this is how I know that Robin is perfect, because when I brought this up to Robin the first time, she was like, yes! I'm like, thank you. These trees smell, I swear to God.
They smell like jizz.
They smell like jizz.
It's disgusting.
They smell like jizz.
UNLV has a few trees, and it's just, you walk from one area, and then you walk past it, and you're fine, and then you have to walk back, because you have to walk back to your car, and it's just walking through this forest of jizz.
It smells so gross. I remember thinking it in college. Robin came home one day, and she's like, UNLV has trees that smell like jizz. And I was like, I fucking knew it. So I want to know, is there a university or a campus that you attend, or even just any place in the town you are, where there's a tree that smells just, wrong? Because I read something earlier today, and it said, like, pollen is essentially tree jizz. And I was like, well, I guess that explains why it smells so fucking bad. But it's a small area of time where you're just walking from your car to your class, and you're just like, it's just a really weird smell to be coming from these fucking trees. This might be me being crazy, but Robin's crazy with me, so I just want to know if anyone out there has experienced this bizarre phenomena.
At the shopping center out here, Town Square, the streets are lined with them.
It's just so nasty. I don't understand it. Maybe it's just something where it's like, we smell it differently than someone else. Maybe there's jizz on the tips of our nose, and I don't know why.
No.
But it's
not it.
I just had to bring it up, because we've talked about it multiple times in our personal life. We're pretty transparent. I'm like, we're just going to talk about this on the show, because it's weird and gross. So, all right. Jizz trees are taken care of. Let us know. I'm not going to put a hashtag on this one, because I can't think of one that I'd want to see on social media. So just let us know on our social medias if you've experienced this, and what campus you've experienced this at, or what location or whatever. So, okay. Now that we've said that, we're going to take a quick break, unless you're listening to this on YouTube, and we're going to run some ads really quick. And we're back. Awesome. We hope those were good ads. So we're going to move into our second topic of the show. So Robin, go ahead and take it away.
All right. So I'm returning with more ghosts this week, because I know I covered a ghost ship last week. So I'm covering at least definitely a particular one. And I think we've covered a similar type of ghost. I'm not sure if we have exactly. It's from Chicago, or at least an area just a few miles southwest of Chicago. And I know I already asked you if you've heard of it before, because you're from the area. And I know you're from Indiana, but it's kind of close, right? I just had to ask, and you obviously said no. So, but I'm sure there are other places in Indiana that have similar ghost stories. But we're not talking about Indiana.
So we're talking about a Class 5 full roaming vapor like Slimer. Because if we are, then yes, I have heard of it. And we can just put them right back in there. Have you not seen Ghostbusters?
I have seen Ghostbusters, but I don't know it that in depth, TBH. So, anyway, I know I asked you about this particular street or the actual name of the ghost, and I know you're from Indiana, and I mean, it's kind of close, but...
I'm just saying, Northwest Indiana literally has a town called East Chicago, and it's in Indiana, but if you tell people you're from Chicago because you lived in East Chicago, and you tell them you lived in East Chicago, they're like, oh, you're from Indiana? It's like, fuck you, man.
Anyway, I'm sure there are definitely a few places in Indiana that have their own similar stories to this one with the hitchhiking ghost type thing. Today I'm talking about Resurrection Mary, which is apparently a well-known ghost legend in the Chicago area. And I don't know if that's true. I'm not from there. All our Chicago peeps, let us know. But she is one of those vanishing hitchhiker ghosts. And not like the fun ones at Haunted Mansion that, don't actually follow you home. This one is based on a specific stretch of road, which is Archer Avenue, between Willowbrook Ballroom and the Resurrection Cemetery. So I looked it up online. It's like a 30-minute stretch between the two places. So It's a pretty long stretch of road. Legend has it that in the 1930s, there were several men that were driving northeast along Archer Avenue when they picked up a young woman who was hitchhiking on the side of the road. And she was dressed in a somewhat formal white dress, kind of like she was going to some type of party. She had blonde hair, blue eyes. She had the whole innocent young girl look to her, right?
So this is why you asked me, do you spell blonde with an E or not?
Yeah.
It's either or, by the way.
It's either or. But I always spell it with an E. That's just how I spell it. Other reports say she even has a thin shawl around her shoulders, or she has dancing shoes and a small clutch, which is super detailed, which if any of you don't know what a clutch is, it's just like a nice, small, kind of inconvenient purse-like wallet.
Kind of inconvenient. I love that.
Well, yeah, it's super inconvenient, for me at least. It doesn't have any straps usually, unless it's like a wrist strap, or if you're really fancy, it has like a chain inside that you can turn into a purse if you really, really want to.
Or choke someone out if they're trying to take your clutch from you.
I hate clutches so much. It can't hold your phone. It can't hold your wallet.
What the hell's the point of it?
To hold, I don't know, your lipstick?
That's like wearing a watch that doesn't tell time and is also extremely heavy, and it's hard to lift your arm.
Well, like the Movado watches that just have the one stone on the face, and it doesn't actually have the numbers or the tick lines for it. I'm like, how can you read the time with that? I can't even with you right now. Anyway, so... yeah, no, I don't like clutches. My phone is way too big. My phone always ends up sticking out of it. But I don't know. Maybe that's just the smartphone age back then. You could probably get away with a clutch because you didn't have all this stupid technology. I don't know. Anyway, we're not talking about purses. Regardless of what she was wearing, she's always very quiet. And the driver takes her to the nearby Resurrection Cemetery where the woman asks to be let out. And she enters the cemetery, at which time she just disappears. And supposedly, her origin story is that she was dancing at an event, probably like a prom or something, with her boyfriend at the O. Henry Ballroom. And this is that very same ballroom along Archer Avenue, that Willowbrook Ballroom. And the couple has a lover spat during the party or event, and she storms out. Horror movies tell me that nothing good can come of storming off on your own at a party in a party dress at night.
We've talked about previous cryptids that wait for couples to fight so one of them gets separated so it can carry off the person who runs away. I think it's La Lucchesa, like that giant owl witch. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it.
It's definitely a way to make yourself available to killers. It's like the mentality where they pick off the stragglers. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like when you get into a fight. I'm not saying this about anyone in particular, and this can be any gender of couple fighting, but one person is typically like, you know what? I'm just going to leave. I don't even care if I get kidnapped. And they just run out. And you're like, well, fuck, I guess I got to do like the stupid boyfriend chase where you're like, baby, come back, baby. And it's just like, if you're going to put yourself out there like that and someone doesn't chase you, you might get stolen by a giant owl witch or taken over by whatever's about to happen to this poor woman.
So she started walking up Archer Avenue. It's a dark area, it's pretty wooded, it's the 1930s, there aren't all the bright lights and technology as common as it is now. They have lights and technology, obviously, it's 1930s, but
no paper and pen, we've confirmed that.
You're such an idiot. I mean, driving through the desert toward Vegas, You can see the glow of the city from way, way, way far away. This place, you're just driving down the street and it's pitch black. You can't see anything, right? And so a single girl walking along the road could easily be missed. And so the story goes, she didn't get very far from the ballroom before she struck in a hit and run. And so she's struck by a car, the driver flees the scene and leaves Mary there to die. Because people are assholes. Mary's parents are the ones that find her.
That's so horrifically sad.
Yeah, and she's buried in the Resurrection Cemetery, supposedly in a white party dress and dance shoes. Which, as someone who always wants to believe, like, I'm the person that the truth is out there, right? I want to believe. But it just seems too...
Why would you bury her in that outfit?
Exactly. It seems too unbelievable. Because I don't think that's a very respectful thing to do.
And I don't think her parents would do that either.
Yeah, she's killed in this party dress. She's killed going out, dancing, doing whatever, and you want to bury her in the same type of clothes? I don't think that
Which would clearly be covered in blood and all fucked up from being knocked down.
It's not the same outfit. It's just...
Oh, it's supposed to be like similar outfit? Oh, okay.
It's just a different party dress and dance shoes or whatever. But it doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, the most unfortunate part is that the hit and run driver is never found. And that's the story of her origin. There are quite a number of different sightings of her over the years, which makes sense since this is supposedly one of the more haunted areas of Illinois. And many of the sightings were of near collisions with a woman standing outside the Resurrection Cemetery. By the time the people get out of the car, like they swerve or they almost hit this person, and then they take a U-turn and try to get back right to the person, and by the time they get back, that woman is gone. And there's a man named Jerry Pallas from Chicago who reported to have met a person that he believes was Resurrection Mary in 1939. He was at the Liberty Grove and Hall at 47th and Mozart. Don't really know where that is.
I was going to say, damn, man, you're really good with this.
I'm not from Chicago, but it's a completely different hall / ballroom than that of the legend. But they danced through the night, and supposedly he even kissed her,
Aww.
which is super cute, before she asked to have him drive her home. And he drove her along Archer Avenue before she exits the car and heads towards Resurrection Cemetery, where she, big surprise, disappears. So it's just the story of a hitchhiking ghost, man.
Except you can kiss this one.
But maybe it's something like Vampire Diaries where, I don't know, because I'm up to the episode where Bonnie's a ghost right now, and she's hanging out with Jeremy, and she can put her hand on Jeremy, but Jeremy's like, but I can't feel you. So I don't know. But he could feel the ghost, right? Because he's kissing the ghost.
God, I hate this show so much.
Don't ruin my fandoms, okay? At the Harlow's nightclub on Cicero Avenue, also not the Ballroom of Legend, in 1973, she was reported to have appeared there. And then that same year, a cab driver came into a place called Chet's Melody Lounge, which is located across the street from Resurrection Cemetery. So this cab driver comes into the lounge and asks about a young lady who left without paying her cab fare, which is totally like, I'm sure she asked for a ride, he gave her a ride, and she's like, nah, dog, I'm outie.
It sounds like someone stiffing a cabbie and they're like, hey, what the hell? And it's like, I'm a spooky ghost. Ooh, and they just run away.
And you know what?
And the guy just tells his friends, like, she disappeared. It was crazy. I don't know why that's my cabbie accent.
I don't know either. It's kind of, okay, whatever. So, do you know what the lounge does every Sunday for her, though? Is they leave a Bloody Mary at the end of the bar for her every Sunday.
Wow.
I don't know if that's classless or not.
That's kind of weird.
It's just, they're only picking that drink because it's named the Bloody Mary. You know, she's not Bloody Mary. It's not like that thing where you look in the mirror and that's what it...
It's like if the ghost died in a car fire, you're not going to leave him an Irish car bomb as a big fuck you. I'm just saying, you don't do that.
Holy shit. Oh my god. Okay, but I don't even... Did she actually like Bloody Marys? You know what I mean? Who knows?
It could be her least favorite drink,
maybe
and
maybe that's
why.
Sham.
Maybe that's why she's not at rest. She's not at peace because it's like, I don't want a fucking Bloody Mary.
Bring back big band. That's what she's saying. Anyway, she's supposedly seen at the Willowbrook Ballroom every once in a while, dancing with patrons there, which is eerie. But the ballroom has burnt down a time since then. I don't know if they rebuilt it and it exists again now, but it has burnt down since then.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's directly related, but I still find it interesting.
It's not related to her at all. I'm just saying that I don't know if she can still dance there.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
One of the things that seems kind of iffy, I mean, other than the fact that we're talking about a ghost here, is that she's reported to have burned her handprints into the wrought iron fence around the cemetery. And that fact seems to have been denied by officials. Obviously, officials aren't going to say, like, yes, it was a ghost. They say in August 1976, a truck actually came and damaged the fence. Obviously not a ghost. But
does the truck have handprints? Sounds like a cover-up to me. Let me go on a bullshit rant like you did during my story about what I actually think is happening.
Supposedly on August 10th, 1976, someone passing by the cemetery at night saw a girl grasping the bars and thought that the girl was locked inside, so they called the police. When police arrived, there was no one in the cemetery, but there were 2 black scorch marks, and the bars were bent at sharp angles, like they had been pulled apart. The marks supposedly looked to have texture of human skin. I don't even know how that's possible.
It's like handprints, kind of how you have fingerprints, like the lines in your hands, maybe?
Scorch marks, you know what I mean?
Because she's a ghost with
on
fire powers.
It's on bars.
Yeah.
How do you have that? It's interesting to me that there's that level of detail. But I don't know. Burning handprints into things, I think we've covered Alcatraz, where there's the cell that has the handprint that never goes away, right? I don't know. They probably replaced the bars by now, right, of this cemetery.
You would think so, but who knows? Maybe they're just like, just leave it. Who cares?
I mean, if the handprint is still there, if it's always there no matter what they do, you guys should let us know. I have no idea. And
we're looking at you, Ulrich. Go check this out for us.
Right. If you have been there and you've seen it, let us know. We love living vicariously through all our spooky friends because we'd love to travel to these places one day and seeing pictures of places you guys have visited and stuff like that. Like, I think Ralph posted a whole bunch of pictures of the Whaley House when he went. And it's just so nice to see because we don't get to go travel there just yet, hopefully in the future. But it's nice to see. There's an article that was published on January 31st, 1979, in a paper that was called the Suburban Trib, or Tribe. It's probably Tribe,
it's
like Tribune. Oh, Trib?
Yeah, for Tribune.
Oh, I was thinking Tribunal. I don't know why. That's a completely different thing. Anyways, so it's a newspaper that unfortunately no longer exists, but the article includes a story of a cab driver named Ralph, who had his own close encounter with who he thought was Resurrection Mary. And it was pretty young blonde he picked up at a shopping center along Archer Avenue. And his story goes that a couple miles up Archer... Okay, this is in quotes, right? This is what he's saying. A couple miles up Archer there, she jumped with a start like a horse and said, "Here, here." I hit the brakes. I looked around and didn't see no kind of house. "Where?" I said, and then she sticks out her arm and points across the road to my left and says, "There." And that's when it happened. I looked to my left, like this, at this little shack, and when I turned, she was gone. She vanished. The car door never opened. May the Lord strike me dead. It never opened. So the car door never opened, but
she
his
was all of a sudden
was
not.
gone.
Wow, that's super fucking
That's
creepy.
super creepy. I have chills. I'm like, that's so weird because you don't hear the car door open, you know? It's just so weird. The writer of the article, Bill Geist, does not believe that Ralph was anything other than a working guy who believes what he saw, and he wasn't anything other than sincere. So it's not like he's just making up some sort of story. It like shook him to have experienced that, which would have freaked me out too. I would have been like, "I'm done cab driving. This is good. Nope."
I was going to call it a life for cab driving. But you can run into a ghost pretty much everywhere, so maybe
It's
just
true.
stay away from this particular stretch of road.
Yeah. How do you... I mean, it's just... Nope. Ghosts? Nope. There's a There's another telling published in the Chicago Reader of the experiences of a man named Vince from the heyday of the Willowbrook Ballroom. And on the night in question, he was dressed to the nines, going out on a Saturday, heading to enjoy the big band vibes at the ballroom. And while there, he's chilling, he's drinking, he's getting the courage to talk to a girl and ask her to dance. And it's a blonde girl, white dress, of course. They didn't talk very much during all the dancing, and all he got from her was that her name was Mary, and that she lived on Damon Avenue in the Brighton Park neighborhood. And it's super specific. All right, I get that. The longer they danced, he started noticing small things. Like her hands were really cold, and her skin was like kind of brittle and dry, because she's dead.
I was going to say she needs to, have a better skincare.
Moisturize.
Yeah.
At the end of the night, Vince offers to drive Mary home. And they drive up Archer Avenue, and after a few miles, Mary asks him to pull the car over. And it just happened to be outside the locked gates of Resurrection Cemetery. He's confused, but like, all right, whatever you say, I'm no creeper dog. If you want to stop here, we'll stop here. She gets out and tells him, I have to go, and you can't follow me. So she walks towards the gates, put her hand on the chain that's locking the gates, and then disappears. And Vince spent the rest of the night driving around trying to find her.
Spent the rest of the night shitting his pants in his car.
He's sad. He danced with this girl all night, only for her to disappear on him, which is really sad. But this part...
You mean he got ghosted?
Ghosted? Oh, snap.
Nailed it. I thought I was actually going to steal that from some part of your script, but I guess not.
No. I wasn't that good. Man, dang it. Missed it. This next part, I really don't believe. I mean, some of the other parts, too, I'm like, eh. But this part, I really don't believe. So
this part is super bullshit.
So he went to the address that she gave him, rings the doorbell. He asks the residents if Mary's there. And the woman that answers the door goes, Mary died in an accident 4 years ago. And I'm like, this is a scene from Friends where Joey talks about the time-traveling play he's in, or whatever, where the guy returns and the person who rings rings the doorbell, the person who answers goes, she's been dead for 10 years. And this whole story, I'm like, this is not real. There's no way. I
would never have recognized that because I've never watched Friends.
I've watched Friends 50 bajillion times all the way through. It's just, oh my God, it's outdated now, but I grew up on it.
This is like that Opposites Attract song. You like Friends, and I like Ghostbusters. Okay. That's one of the lines, right?
So anyway, whatever the line is, it just doesn't seem real to me because it's so cheesy and it's too fictional.
It doesn't ring true.
Right. Plus, they still haven't figured out who Mary really is. If they had the address, wouldn't they already know who she was, right? Anyway, his story goes, he sees her picture, looks past the woman answering the door, sees her picture sitting on top of the piano behind her, whatever.
And her death certificate. Everything he knows to know, 100% she actually is dead.
So he's talking to this woman, and he's realizing, oh shit, she was a ghost. This woman's like, she's been dead. How did you know her? He's making up all these lies, like I used to go to college with her, or whatever. And so she tells him how she died. He's told that Mary went out dancing with boys she worked with, but that she never even made it to the dance hall. So it's like a totally different story from the one that's told most of the time. And he never returns to the ballroom. He never returns to the cemetery because he's just too shooketh. And shooketh. It's too unbelievable. It's too unbelievable for me to be like, oh yeah, his story's great. It's very much fictional writing to me. But, there's a whole bunch of different stories as to her origin, as to all the legends of having seen her. Everyone has a different story, so it makes sense. Those that have researched Resurrection Mary have tried to link the story to any number of the thousands of burials in Resurrection Cemetery. And there was a girl named Mary Bregovi who died in 1934 of a car accident, which matches, right? Died of a car accident. But it was on the downtown Chicago loop, which, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not from there, but it definitely doesn't seem like
they
it's
don't sound
near.
like they're close.
Yeah, because downtown compared to this place, it just doesn't match up. Plus, I saw a grave marker, and a grave marker with that name, Mary Bergrovy, and it said like 1888 to 1922 or something like that. And I was like, that's different.
It definitely sounds like it's one of those stories that people just sort of like, I don't know, elaborated on, and maybe it's something where someone actually did die, but they didn't know the name, so they just made it up.
So in 1999, someone named Ursula Bielski wrote of a possible connection of someone named Anna Maria Norkus, who died in 1927 in a car accident on her way home from the O. Henry Ballroom, or the Willowbrook Ballroom. And this seems to match with the timeline and the location. This particular theory seems to have gained a lot more popularity recently. I mean, I would jump on that bandwagon too, because it sounds, like it matches, you know?
I guess. I'm very skeptical on this one because I feel like it's multiple legends kind of crammed together. Kind of like how local legends can do that. Like when I did Moody Light, that's what this one kind of reminds me of, is Moody Light, where it's like there's 6 different versions of how this person came to be. All I know is that I totally saw that shit and it's real.
Still, it's not entirely known for sure who she is. So she's just kind of this, she's just a legend, you know? Bonus ghost. There's another one that tries to steal her thunder. A man covered in blood has been seen outside of Bethania Cemetery, another cemetery along the Archer Avenue stretch. This man is seen leaping into the road, covered in blood, flailing a flashlight around. And he seems to be trying to get help, so cars pass him, right? But they make a U-turn to go back. They turn back towards the cemetery only for the man to have vanished. And one driver even reported to have been run off the road by seeing this blood-soaked apparition and then blinded by their flashlight. So this ghost is like waving this flashlight around and causing people to swerve and stuff like that. But this is like Mary's territory. Like, get your own gig.
That's hilarious.
You know what I mean? Like, you get your own fucking ideas. Stop doing the same thing. Some say Archer Avenue between St. James Sag Church and the cemetery is especially haunted. So the church is in between the ballroom and the cemetery. And because I Google mapped it, okay? There seem to be other specters that roam the area. There are supposedly a number of different cemeteries along this same stretch of road. Monks are said to haunt St. James Sag Church. And there are tales of phantom horses that are known to cross 95th and Keene, wherever that is. I don't know. Because giant hoofed mammals weren't intimidating enough, they had to make them ghosts too. Ghost horses. I mean, it's like the Headless Horseman. That's what I was reminded of when I was reading all this stuff.
So he's not terrifying enough. He has to have like a ghost horse that's also terrifying to ride on.
So what's even worse is there are driverless, horse-drawn hearses. Like hearse, not horse. Like the so it's like a buggy, like
hearse
a hearse buggy.
Horses, got you.
It's like a hearse buggy that's drawn by a horse with no driver. And
how do they hold the pen to draw it?
I don't get it.
Because horse
drawn. Ha 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 ha! I hate you. God damn it. Some say they've even seen a child's coffin in the back of the hearse, which is pretty far-fetched, but you know. Whatever the story may be. Some say it's supposedly the hearse carrying the body of Resurrection Mary to the cemetery. Teenagers are said to dare each other to do this thing called the Monk's Castle Run. Hopefully you can hear my air quotes as I say that. It's a challenge where they run from one end of the cemetery to the other without getting caught. The monks are said to torture teens who trespass and shave their heads like those of Franciscan monks.
Wow.
While researching this, I just thought of the episode of Gallivant where Weird Al is in it and he plays a monk and they just have this song where they're just like, yeah, we're the monks. That's all I could think of while I was doing it. It's such a good show. Bring it back.
For all 6 of you who watch Gallivant.
I love Gallivant.
I really like Gallivant too. I'm just saying it was not popular by the second season.
It was not popular, no. I thought it was really good. It was really cute. It had so many good actors in it. What is that guy that was in Psych that plays the detective in Psych?
The blue-eyed guy?
Yeah, he's so... Oh, I love him.
Kane from Supernatural.
Yes.
I don't know his name. He is very pretty, though.
He's so pretty. Him and Kane, I'm like, oh my god. Anyway.
You mean him in Supernatural?
Yeah, him as Kane in Supernatural. So hot. Anyway, other threats from the monks are making them kneel on uncooked rice for hours. But the irony of these tortures and these monks is that there were no monks that were ever stationed there. So there's like priests and stuff like that, but there were never any monks. And I just think it's these legends that these kids tell to scare each other. I don't know, is that ironic or is that just like, I don't know, stupid storytelling?
I think it's just stupid. I mean, kids do stupid stuff and they make up bullshit. That's what kids do. But like, I like the idea that this is what the challenges like used to be before the challenges became
the Kylie Jenner challenge.
It's like Dumber and Dumber. I don't even know what the Kylie Jenner.
Ice on your arm with salt. You put salt, you put the ice cube on your arm, and then it gives you burns because it like makes.
I don't know. Like I've never. I used to do stuff
challenge.
Like that. Like me, like the Tide Pod challenge is just
Kylie
like
Jenner
thinning
one,
the herd.
The Kylie Jenner one was when you took the water bottle or whatever, right, and you put it around your lips, and then you suck it, and then it's supposed to make your lips really plump.
I thought you just said it was putting ice on your thing. On
no,
your arm
that's a different challenge.
I did the stuff we did when I was a kid. Is like you take a pen, like it has to be a Bic pen, and you rub it on your desk really fast.
Oh, and then
it, like,
you
gets
superheat
friction,
the metal,
and then you just burn the back of your friend's neck. That's not a challenge as much as it is you're a dickhead. But then all your friends have burn marks in the back of your neck. And then, like, we had just other stuff that we used to do that was all stupid. Like, we used to do, like, okay, I don't want to talk about too many of these because I don't want, like, any of our young listeners to be like, I'm going to go do that because I'm stupid. But, like, I don't know. We had different challenges is what I'm saying, and now they're just dumb. And I feel like this is a remnant of an era gone by where it's like, you think of something scary.
Like, go to that haunted house.
Yeah, and then you tell your friends that they don't have balls to follow through on it until they do, and then it turns out it was all bullshit to begin with, or your friend disappears forever, and then you tell another ghost story about them.
I don't think I ever did any challenges as a kid. What we used to do was, like, draw with marker, like the Crayola markers, right? And you just draw it on your hand and color your hand all different colors, and then you put glue.
Oh, yeah.
You put glue on your hand, and then you wait for it to dry, and then you peel it off, and you have this colorful handprint. It's cute.
My friends and I used to take, like, the cans of compressed air that you spray a keyboard with, and if you turn it upside down, you could shoot the actual CO2 out of it, like, onto your arm.
And freeze your skin.
It would look so cool, though. It's like it would spread. It's like you're Sub-Zero. And it would just spread across your skin, and then, of course, you'd be left with, like, really bad red marks because you're burning your skin because it's so cold.
This reminds me of My Hero Academia now, where... What's his name? Oh, God. The guy with the hands all over his face freezes their teacher's elbow and his skin cracks and starts falling off.
He doesn't freeze it, though. He, like, decays it.
Or something like that. And it's just, that's what that reminds me of. Why would you do that to yourself?
You're a kid. You're stupid. It wasn't even a challenge. It was just like, hey, look at this. This is cool.
Look at what I can do.
Yeah, that is legitimately what it is.
Okay. Anyway, so another location along Archer Avenue is a place called Kaiser Hall. Funnily enough, it was another ballroom. This one, though, the devil himself is said to be a patron. And legend has it that a woman was taken with a handsome man, like super spittin', and they were at a dance at this ballroom. She danced with him for hours, and finally, when she looks down at his feet,
their hooves.
She screams. Everyone assumes he's groping her or something or doing something untoward. And then everyone swarms him because they think he's like some pervert. And he jumps out the second story window and lands like a spider monkey or like a cat, whatever.
So did he jump a story high to exit? Or does he run up?
He jumped out the second story window.
Okay, but they're on the first story on this dance floor, right?
No, they're on the second story. He's jumping out the second story window.
Okay, because I was picturing they're on the ground level and, like, his knees bent back, like, because he has cloven hooves in my brain. He just, like, launches out the second. It's not as cool in my... Okay, let me rephrase that. It's way cooler in my mind's eye here.
It's way more exaggerated in your mind's eye. But no, they're on the second floor. He jumps out the second story window. He's just like, boop, on the ground. I'm outie, and just walks away. And where he lands is an imprint of a set of cloven hooves.
Called it.
And, I mean, it's the devil. What do you expect?
I feel like the devil would have feet. That's just such a big giveaway. And how do you not listen to the clomping while you're dancing with this fucking guy for hours? It would not have been quiet.
If I can teach a forest troll to be quiet, I think the devil can learn to be quiet.
Now she's just talking about a D&D game. It makes no sense. No one understands it except for like 4 people.
Okay, anyway, so if you folks want to see the area, there is such thing as an Archer Avenue Triangle tour to show you all of the ghost ghosty spots in the area. So there are definitely a lot of different tellings of the Resurrection Mary story. I'm sure if you go on the tour, they'll tell you something different as well. And there's a whole bunch of things that happen along Archer Avenue. There were a number of things I didn't even put down because there were just so many. And apparently this Archer Avenue street has so many different haunted things across it. If half of what happens along that road are true, that's just incredible. And I didn't realize that Chicago had a place that was so intense, and I think it's pretty neat.
It is. Chicago's a wonderful place. I miss it. Except for when it snows. Then I can go back. I
like
don't know,
right now?
when everything thaws. I don't know if it's snowing yet, but it's definitely cold enough to.
Hasn't it already snowed once?
It has snowed, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I don't know. It's nice because it's like 75 degrees out here in Vegas still, so I'm not missing it that much right now.
All right. But yeah, that's Resurrection Mary and Archer Avenue.
I've never,
There's
ever
a place
heard.
on Archer Avenue.
I knew you were going to do some sort of song.
And hang with you.
I hate you. I have never heard of Archer Avenue because I didn't live like downtown proper Chicago. I grew up in Northwest Indiana. I think it's something that kind of passed me by because like most of the legends and the lore that were local for me was like the Indiana stuff, like you live in the middle of nowhere, something terrible happened with no one around type of thing.
Yeah.
Versus like you were in a crowded area and then you suddenly disappeared, which is even creepier. So really good stuff, Robin. Way to bring your A game this episode.
I had a lot of fun this episode. I think it was really neat. I love your topic. It was really good. Thank you.
I'm glad. And I hope I did Ray Stantz well when I covered this because like I was legitimately like, if there's ever a celebrity that ever listens to any episode, it might be Dan Aykroyd listening to this. Because I don't know if you know this, but he is a super paranormal enthusiast. Like he wrote Ghostbusters for Christ's sake. Like a lot of what he put into that is based off of like stuff that he actually believes in. Like he probably knows about the Tunguska blast.
He believes in ghost blowjobs.
Yeah, he definitely believes in ghost blowjobs, which is still like the weirdest scene in Ghostbusters. But anyways, I had a super fun time. So we hope you had a fun time listening to it. If you have a story about ghost blowjobs or anything else like that, you can email storytime@scaryish.com and let us know. I'm just kidding. We don't want to hear your ghost blowjob stories. Please keep those to yourself.
Yeah, keep those to yourself.
You can also go to scaryish.com and click on contact us. Fill out that form. It comes directly to us or hit us up on any of our social medias. We have Facebook, which is facebook.com/scaryish podcast. Twitter is @scaryish_pod and Instagram is @scaryish_podcast.
Yeah.
Robin? What do you have? Okay,
no.
you have a quip just waiting for it.
If you have stories about meeting Dan Aykroyd, that'd be cool.
That would also be super cool.
I would love to hear about that.
Or if you're Dan Aykroyd, please reach out to us. It would be the highlight of my life.
Oh my God, it would be the highlight. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
So cool.
If he sat here and just did an episode with us,
it would never happen.
Oh my gosh.
He has his own vodka. He has the Skull vodka. That's him.
What?
Yeah, that's all his stuff.
Wow.
Try it out. It's excellent vodka. Vodka used to be my drink back when I was like not allowed to drink. That's what I would drink. That's what I started off on. So it's maybe it's time to cycle back all the way and start drinking vodka again.
No, too old.
Too old.
My body can't handle it.
I'm in the 2.5 day hangover category nowadays with my age. So.
That past wedding, man, it was bad, and I didn't even drink that much.
I remember everything from the last wedding we went to, but I was definitely cross-eyed drunk.
I remembered everything, but I was so messed up that next morning.
Even on the flight home, I was like, I am still so fucking drunk. It was horrible.
Yeah, our friends, John and Mariana, made an amazing breakfast. It tasted so good, but I still had to throw up before I ate it. I was like, oh my gosh, man, it was bad.
Anyways.
If you guys want to support us by throwing us some of your money, if you can, we have a Patreon.
Your hard-earned cash.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Scaryish podcast. Those are monthly donations. We have a whole bunch of different tiers. I am about to mail out the new rewards for December. I mean, when December hits. So if you folks want to join us, go ahead and look at the tiers on there. You can see what you guys like. There's one-time donations at coffeeko-fi.com/Scaryish podcast. One-time donations, all of that helps us upgrade our studio setup. And, yeah. Right
on. So I think that's just about everything we have for episode 102. So thank you so much for listening. We sincerely appreciate it. Appreciate it. And, Robin, go ahead and sign us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.